Alrighty. So the next comedian we get up here, he's only performed 4 times before. Okay. So it's very, it's extra important that you are extra good with this guy. Okay. Give him as much love as you can. Are you ready for that? Yeah. Good. Give it up. Okay, that thing's a little taller than I am. Anyway, okay, so first and foremost, I have to ask, since it's an international audience, hands up who hasn't heard of the Tooth Fairy? Tooth Fairy, not a joke, just checking. Okay, so I can begin. Okay, I grew up in the 80s, which, yes, is nothing like Stranger Things, but anyway, so I was raised by a dentist, and it caused a few very important differences in my upbringing. Basically, your average Brit and American and so forth, they would expect, you lose a baby tooth, you put the tooth under your pillow, and then lo and behold, magically there's a coin. Yay. Not in our household. We had a slightly different system. Oh no, it's not bad, it's good. Because, first and foremost, we knew that Tooth Fairy was a lie because raised by a dentist. But we also knew that our mother had access to nitrous oxide. And so, when we told her when we were little, Mum, I think I've got a loose tooth, she would go, ooh, can I have a look at it? And we'd go, why, yes, Mum. She would reach on in with just 2 fingers and miraculously would wrench that sucker right out of our heads. Which, changed the goodnight ritual a little bit. So we learned, okay, we can't trust her with 2 fingers, so we had to ration her. So what we did was instead, you're allowed 1 finger to examine a tooth because, as we have learned with empirical data, you cannot pull out a tooth with a single finger. So sure enough, it's like, I have a loose tooth. Can you confirm, Mum? Yes. 1 finger, okay. Yes, it is loose. Does that mean I get nitrous oxide? Yes. Okay, so sure enough, the very next Saturday when she would go in for a patient who maybe had they were busy during the week, so they couldn't be there. So it would be like after the patient had gone away, and if we were super quiet and very well behaved, we would get a little shot of nitrous oxide, and then our tooth would get out. So this became a reward system of sorts. Hey, seriously, I don't judge, or at least I try not to. Anyway, so as a result, even sometimes when you didn't have a loose tooth, if you behaved yourself really, really, really well, then you would get yourself a little snifter of nitrous oxide. But then, as time marched on, the 80s started heading into the 90s, and health and safety became words that you'd hear around the place. They introduced rules and regulations like, hey, you're not allowed to randomly give nitrous oxide to people without the proper monitoring equipment. What did my mother do? You would think she would get rid of that nasty apparatus, or she would get a heart monitor. She did neither of those things. She put the nitrous oxide apparatus in a cupboard all discreet-like, and kept it for her very special patients and children. And also, but sometimes then, the dental inspector would come by and he would check, is everything all right? You aren't running any unauthorized nitrous oxide equipment, are you? But sometimes this elderly apparatus, like many elderly apparatuses, would occasionally go whee, just let off some gas. So we would always be worried during the inspector's visits, is it going to suddenly go whee and sell us out? So eventually, when the whole Bosnia-Herzegovina thing exploded, then my mother eventually, in a huge charitable donation, gave away her nitrous oxide thing that she forgot she had. It was just like, must have slipped my mind. It's in that cupboard with lots of cylinders. Who knew? Anyway, so away it went. But another thing about being raised by a dentist is my mother, most dentists, they have like records and stuff. My mother, she did keep records, but I swear she didn't need them. She was like Rain Man when it came to remembering all of the patient's details, but not just what was up with their teeth, not just which crowns she'd given them. She would also somehow knew every skeleton in their closet without exception, like some kind of J. Edgar Hoover. And so we would be out in Marks and Spencer's picking up a frozen chicken or whatever, and then we would bump into someone, and they would always be so glad to see her, and they'd be like, oh, it's so great to see you, and they'll be like, yabba, 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 oh, your kids are so big, tousled hair, yeah. But then, they would walk away, and then I would count in my head, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 1,000, 4,000, 5,000. Oh, well, that was Mr. Jones. He had his crown, yada, yada, yada. But of course, his son was actually a transvestite, and he ran away to the circus, and there it is. Like you're watching an episode of Jerry Springer, you'd always feel so completely normal while hearing about all of her patients. I swear not one of them didn't have a kid who, I don't know, inhaled aerosols and took their own life, or was secretly gay, or was gay and taking aerosols, or, you know, you name it. One of her patients had it in her closet, as it were. Oh, of course, he mutilated himself while doing something you really shouldn't do to a kitchen blender. It's like, why do I need to know this? But anyway, also, growing up, we had pet gerbils, and so we didn't know which gerbils were boys and which gerbils were girls, so of course, surprise, surprise, there were many baby gerbils happening. And so a friend of mine, we had him over because baby gerbils, wouldn't you like one for free? And his little brother, he had a baby tooth growing out horizontally like a diving board. And it was not pretty to look at. Anyway, being raised by a dentist, I could spot that a million miles away. So this is the first time this little guy has clapped eyes on my mother. And my mother, of course, is like, oh dear, that is a dreadful tooth. Oh, can I have a look at it? And before we had the chance, you know, it's the phrase. She pulls that right out of his face without permission. And ironically, she actually gave him a can of 7-Up and a chocolate bar as compensation. It's like, sorry, I just pulled your teeth out without consent, but, you know, hey, you look kind of pretty now. Here, have some sugar. But, but in fairness, sugar wasn't a worry for us, because she actually gave us fluoride supplements as a kid, which you're kind of not allowed to do anymore. She actually also slipped them in our food. But hey, no fillings, no cavities, go figure. Anyway, I think that's quite enough for me for now. But well, thank you very much.